Okay, thank you for staying with us on the program. So let's get these discussions on the road quickly. I'm joined by three gentlemen. I'll begin with the one from my immediate left, Dr. Don Pedro Obaseki, one-time governorship candidate in Edo State in 2015. 16, I should say, in particular, is a media entrepreneur as well as a public affairs commentator. Thank you so much, Pedro, for coming on the program.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here again.
Right. And next to him is a lawyer and a public affairs analyst, Dr. Patrick Awo-Osage. Is also joining us to help make sense of these discussions this morning. We do appreciate it.
Thank you, and good morning, Nigerians.
And we're joined virtually via Zoom by the President, African Bar Association, Mr. Hannibal Uwaifu, a legal practitioner, is joining us live via Zoom this morning. We want to also say we appreciate you. Please, if you can hear us, just say hello to Nigerians.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me.
We do appreciate it. Okay, we want to begin with you because I understand that you have a personal appointment to catch. So quickly, let's make the most of the time this morning, Hannibal. You have followed incidents, you have followed developments in this country, essentially. I want to begin with the plan by the federal government, as we are now hearing, to put up for outright sale or for concessioning certain national assets in this country, all in a bid to fund part of the 2021 budget. Just as I said at the top of the program this morning, this isn't the first time, and who knows, maybe not the last time that the federal government will be putting up assets for sale in Nigeria. But what are your thoughts about the plan by the government to pull off this kind of action?
Well, thank you very much. First and foremost, sale of national assets, like you already said, is not a new thing, whether in Nigeria or in any other part of the world. The question is, what are we going to get out of the sale? What I mean is, when you put these national assets for sale, you realize the benefits. How is it spent? Because when you have a country where governance continues to be opaque, where governance continues to be politicized, where the welfare of the people is at the back burner, then some of these sales become questionable. I'm totally for smaller governments, as it is in other parts of the world. Nigeria needs to have smaller governments, not big governments, like we have. It's jamboree of sorts. We used to have the Nigerian Airways, we used to have the Nigerian National Shipping Line, we used to have a lot of other national assets or whatever. They were either sold or rather they were disbanded or whatever happened. Nothing has ever been heard of these things again. Nobody knew what went with the Nigerian Airways, whether it was liquidated, what about the assets? Nobody knows. What about the Nigerian National Shipping Line? Nobody knows. So if government is going to sell assets, it must be open to Nigerians. We must have a plan, not just merely to fund the budget for stomach infrastructure for some people or for corrupt purposes for others where the money disappears into thin air. We must know, what are we going to fund? Are we going to sell national assets to pay salaries or to pay extra costs? Or are we going to use it to build industries for our people? What Nigeria needs at the moment are industries where our youths can be gainfully employed, where our youths can go and work and be able to take care of their families, where the unemployed will be able to get some form of employment and be relieved of the burden of daily living. The country is becoming so tense because unemployment is so rife. People are hungry. There is no job anywhere. We are producing graduates in a geometrical proportion, but there's no employment. So government needs to line before we can do this. We need to have a plan. What are we going to sell the national assets for? And Nigerians must debate it. So that's my belief. I don't think sales of national assets there's anything wrong with it, but we must prioritize it.
Now, there's something I want you to react to quickly, all right? As it stands right now, the Senate Committee on Privatization and Commercialization is now saying that officially they are not aware of the government's plan to want to, as it were, monetize these assets or sell these assets or even concession some of these assets. The chairman of that committee in particular, former Abia State Governor, Mr. Theodore Orji, is now saying that, for want of better words, there's no synergy between the Senate and the executive as far as these issues are concerned, especially the Bureau for Public Enterprise, whose DG, he says, has not been, as it were, cooperating with the committee or the larger Senate as an institution, for example. What does this say about government's approach in terms of national development?
That's what I just said at the beginning of my comment, that we have an opaque government, where things are said, they play politics, lots of lies, no action. So there is a confusion. You want to sell national assets, the public doesn't know what you want to do with it. The public is not aware of the assets you want to sell. The Senate is not aware. I'm not sure let me just say the National Assembly is not aware. So how do you want to go about this type of thing? You just wake up, government officials just wake up, dream up some certain plans, and then they begin to test the mood of the public, as per this thing, without any concrete plan. So I think that particularly the media, we need to take this up with the government. You cannot go and sell national assets in this type of disorganized manner. Nobody's aware, no plans, and at the end of the day, we go back to politics. Because the president is from the north, that's why they are attacking him. It's because the speaker is from here. It's because the minister is from here. It's because he's a Muslim. Those are the kind of childish and holistic things we do. At the end of the day, the entire episode, the main issues are lost in transit. There's nowhere to be found. Truth is sold. So the whole thing is. So I don't think we should allow these things to go.
I'm going to allow you to step on your brakes quickly now, Hannibal. I'll get back to you in a bit so you can just lend your voice in on this issue for the last time before we let you off quickly. But let me turn to Pedro quickly now, right? Some persons would rather argue that the government now, in a manner of speaking, has its backs against the wall. So it's hard-pressed to raise funds to source funding for the 2021 budget. Therefore, as they will say in African parlance, you go to war with the tools you have, right? So the government realizes that one of the things we must do at this point is to put up these assets for sale. You don't think that's misplacement of priorities, do you?
I don't know whether I should talk as an artist, as an entrepreneur, as a lawyer.
Maybe you should talk as a Nigerian.
As an economist.
Let's begin with you as a Nigerian.
First of all, the biggest problem we have in this country is our jaundiced analysis. What will you sell to fund the 2022 budget? And what will you sell to fund the 2023 budget? You see, there is a huge lacuna in the macroeconomic space. And this government is a government that has no thinkers. It's a government that is populated by jaundiced analysts. People, I'm very sorry to say this on public television. This is not the first time, like you said. But the worst part is, this is not the first time in the last 4 years that they want to put up public assets for sale. There are certain public assets that are actually a liability to government. So as a liberal-minded person, I will look at it. Government has no business in business. So those ones that are businesses that have become a huge drain on the national economy, I think those assets can be put up for sale. Some few years ago, I was part of those who actually clamored for a deregulation or a divestment of government from the telecommunication space, as is in most parts of the world. And then they now regulate the access to that space, like sales of Nitel. So because the Nitel days was sold, is still jaundiced. Sale of things like the refineries, or a privatization process of the refineries. Now, Nigeria has one of the biggest sets of refineries across the world that are non-functional. Meanwhile, we are encouraging the creation of modular refineries across the country. So which means whether we like it or not, refining is a huge business. And where Nigeria earns its biggest money from is also the biggest size pool of corruption for the government. You have a government that is having the most jaundiced parallel market in the world, where you with 380 naira, you chase $1 at official rate, and you get that to come and compete in the major open sector at today, as of yesterday, 470 naira to the dollar.
475 this morning.
So you have inflation spiraling at close to 35%. Then you have stagnation. So what you have finally in Nigeria is an unknown economic environment, which I may call stagflation. Stagnation and inflation at the same time. So the sales of the assets is another, you know, he was speaking now, the president of the African Bar Association. He said, so now, when you now start trying to pull government towards the proper direction, their first take is he Hausa, is he Yoruba, is he Igbo? Is he in this party or in that party or the other? They will be bringing in extenuating circumstances that do not address the economic situation on ground. My only problem I keep asking my friend, we were discussing yesterday at Benin Club, what will you use to fund the next budget if you sell the assets to fund this one? Because if you look at the budget itself is not a progressive budget. In a nation where you have these challenges, you should be looking for how do you stimulate the economy? How do you engender participation of investors in the economy? How do you drive in greater FDI, foreign direct investment in the economy?
Right.
How do you make people save more? How do you make people spend more so that there will be economic interaction, so that there will be economic growth? How do you bring in projects so as to grow or blow up the economy? Because that is what it is. But when you are now going to sell assets, like he said, you are going to sell assets so as to fund the ESTA codes, so as to fund those largesse of government that does not trickle down to there has no trickle down effect, that does not affect the economics of the market space. There is a problem. So you are going to fund recurrents with sales of national assets. So those recurrents will not add one dime to the growth of the economy. Now the economy, the Nigerian economy has shrunk. Last year it shrunk by close to 3.5%. Instead of a growth projection, we are having a retrogressive projectile. That is a problem. That's why I don't know where Nigeria is just like a rudderless ship. A car you put on the expressway meant to run at 200 kilometers per hour, and you remove all the tires. That is what we face.
I want to talk about something with Patrick quickly,
Yes.
right? A lot of persons I talk to, both on and off the records, will say, look, two elements fundamentally drive budgetary process, including funding, for example. They talk about the politics of it, and more importantly, the economics of it. In the case of Nigeria, it will appear there's a tilt in favor of the politics of it, without looking at the economic dynamics that should be intricate, as it were, elements of the budget. In the case of Nigeria, the excuse we hear most times is that, look, COVID-19 came and swept off sort of our feet. So whatever we're doing right now is trying to mitigate the issues we're dealing with, trying to do, as it were, some damage control. Isn't that good enough excuse given where we are today on account of COVID?
Thank you very much. In fairness, one is speechless, like Michael Jackson would say.
But that was a song.
Yes,
the song
the
is
song
important.
indicates a whole lot of sense.
I agree with you.
You know, you really don't know. You could see if a Don Pedro, who is an orator par excellence, is stammering to make certain things alive.
Because he didn't know whether to sound as an artist.
No. The challenge is that the problem is overwhelming.
Yes.
And it's like with the governors and the governments of the day seem not to even know what's happening. they're so clueless, with all respect to them. I'm not trying to be sarcastic.
But we've seen figures, for example, from even the National Bureau of Statistics, showing that government has made efforts, and some of those efforts are paying off.
Can I say something?
By all means.
We are dealing with real people. We are not dealing with figures. We talk about statistics. You take a walk on the street and look at how our government. I was just talking to someone a while ago, and we talked about money being paid. We have monetized everything. And where are we going to with the so-called money we have? When we don't have a working environment, the systems are not working, the economy is down, everything is going comatose, and this is what we face every other day. So that is the challenge. So we cannot continue to just get the experts. People can always come up with figures, and there are ways you could always generate these things, but that's not showing the real situation on ground.
The streets.
Now we must look at it economic-wise, it's zero. Politically, it's more or less tribalized and, have narrowed down, not giving experts and those that really know what to do. Politics is not all about my party win, I'm in government and we have won again. It's about what am I there to do? When you have the people at heart, when you have them at heart, this is not rocket science. It's not that difficult. The way they make it look like it's so doubting, it's not real doubting as that's we make it look like. It's just unfortunate that in a situation like this, you hardly find somebody who to talk to. Okay, look at the government. The way it seems as if the government don't understand the workings of economics and sciences. It's just like we are in a babalawo structure, just do something and some hybridadabra if it works. And that is basically, we have no bored away from even the contemporary ways of doing things. You see what okay now, let me deviate a little. Just look at the ENDSARS. I know we don't want to, that's what we're talking about. Now look at what a lawyer is now filing an information to prosecute. On what basis? He said he's an activist. Okay, fine. Now CBN is getting an ex parte motion to people's accounts. You are asking how? Is that still part of? You see, these are very enlightened people. That's why I'm shocked. People that should know better. And now you have a panel that is looking at, the president said they have right to protest. Now, on the other hand, subtly they are being prosecuted in the likes of Samadi, Yemi, and Yusufu, and all those folks that have come out to speak again. Now, we are just, if you look at all of this put together, you know that we are not making...
Well, it's a good thing you mentioned the issue of the ENDSARS protest in passing, because in a bit we'll be looking at the aftermath. But quickly, I want us to let the gentleman of the one joining us via Zoom this morning, Hannibal Owaifo. Hannibal, I wanted to speak to something very quickly. As of today, the chairman of the Senate Committee on Privatization and Commercialization, Theodore Orji, he's saying that the Director General of the Bureau for Public Enterprise, that is the BPE, has not been cooperating with his committee or the larger Senate as we know it. Doesn't that shift priority away from institutional thinking and now bringing us down to, if you like, some kind of tussle between individuals in these two institutions? How much of implications does it have for us?
That's the usual style in Nigeria. So I'm surprised that you are surprised about that. That's the normal thing.
So it's a two-way surprise.
Yeah, so it's the usual way to govern Nigeria. No one is accountable. Are you telling me that the Senate does not know there are some powers it has in so many public officials to account for their operations in office? So all these are just politics. And that's what's killing the country. We talk here, we talk there. Tomorrow you don't know exactly what happens or what has taken place again. From there you start hearing about budget padding or collecting money from this and that and that. Senators taking this, taking that. So it's a usual style of governance in Nigeria. If you want the cooperation of the Bureau of Public Enterprise, it's either going to be voluntary or it's going to be by law. You use the instruments of the law to obtain what you want. But my immediate response is, these are not serious people. That's honestly my response. And the country is worse off for it.
Okay, I want to thank you so much for making out time out of your very, very busy schedule to join us via Zoom this morning. Hannibal Waifo, legal practitioner, President, African Bar Association, for being part of the discussion on TMI.
Thank you very much, and hello to Don Pedro Baseki and to other gentlemen and colleagues.
All right, thank you so much.
Hannibal, thank you very much.
You too. Okay, at this point in time, I want to get back to the gentleman in the studio, but we're moving to our second discussion at this point. Again, I want to begin with Pedro Obaseki. When the ENDSARS protest started, at least a few days into it, a lot of Nigerians have said, look, here comes the Pandora's box being opened right now. A lot of things will happen on account of these protests. And really, we're seeing a lot of things happen, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything else in between. As of today, given all we have seen in this country, what have been your assessments, your sentiments, and projections?
I think I will be a little more circumspect here.
Okay.
The government is not smart.
In what context?
In this entire handling of the entire thing. The government is, he said it already, so the government is not smart. I grew up as a young man on the streets of this Benin, and I knew what we went through in the 80s, early 80s, up to the end of the 80s. I knew all the fights against Angwa Abdullahi Mosgo, taking down Uniben and all this stuff. I still remember as a staff advisor to the Students' Union when in 1989, the president of that Students' Union, Mike Guinea, I was in jail as a result of those stuff then when they released the prisoners in 1989. I still remember fighting Nadeko, operating Radio Kudirat and becoming a surrogate underground broadcaster in those days. And I see one thing at the end. When you are a bad student of history, you will be swallowed in the vortex of history, not just only repeating it. Now, we are almost all the principal characters that handled these bad protests once upon a time are all back on the scene, either as septuagenarian presidents. So, when a man you can't change at 41, you can't change him at 81. That is what we are saying.
Is that a life's principle?
I'm just telling you, because by then, he will be too caked in his way to bend. He either makes or he breaks. That is what President Buhari is showing everybody. I truly believe that the young men who are being martyrized by this ENDSARS persecution will in another couple of years be the cornerstone of this nation if this nation is still a nation. Wow, market. You don't need to stay optimistic. Quickly. You don't need to be a Nostradamus to see this. The young men are being, I use the word martyrized. And the young women, Yusuf and Kwan, you are turning into martyrs. A simple protest where the president of the country, who is supposed to be the collective conscience of the people and the custodian of our constitution, the ground norm for this country, a constitution that is part of and parcel of the Committee of Nations, that have sought to entrench certain fundamental rights, of which the right to protest is enshrined. Peaceful protest. We must understand that the ENDSARS protest remained largely a peaceful protest until the machinations of the faceless unknown soldiers of the 20th of October 2020. So 2010-2020 is a stain on the Nigerian nation. The blood of those who were let out on that day, real or perceived, is going to remain etched on the collective conscience of this country. Our president came out and said he believed these kids should do what they've done. Then at the end of the day, when they were not the one who pulled the trigger, they didn't fire the first shot. They did not even fire any shot.
Absolutely.
There is no, right now, if you're looking at those ones who have been president, it's different from what happened in Benin. We shouldn't mistake it.
Okay. Two different scenarios.
Very different. The Benin one was even a day before. The breaking of the jails in Benin, which I don't think, is not there were no jail breaks in Benin anyway. The letting out of prisoners in Benin was on the 19th of October, Monday 19th of October. The burning of all those police stations in Igbobaoka was 24 hours earlier. But the one that the ENDSARS bloody riot that they said was triggered by the military. By the turning up, it was all in the, I saw the CNN report again yesterday. The turning up of all the lights, the shooting of the staccato gunshot, they were all live on TV. Absolutely. And on social media.
Oh yes.
We all saw it, and the young girl with her phone running live. We saw it. So when I sit down and I tell myself what the government should be doing now is how to arrange structurally, not to cosmetically wallpaper over it. And now the CBN, we mentioned it. The CBN, the statutory regulator of the banking sector, now becomes the prescriber of punitive measures to individual Nigerians. It is funny. It is not in our statutes. They have gone beyond. If it's a different thing if the government, if the Directorate of State Security, if the Nigerian police, if any of those statutory bodies have said we have gone to court to seek either an ex parte motion or we want a restraining order on Mr. XYZ because Mr. XYZ have been involved in XY criminal conduct. You cannot even, you get my point? And then you now apply that, and then the court gives you a verdict, a judgment, a pronouncement of a court, and says, okay, Bank X, Bank Y, you are hereby ordered, because of the success of this motion so filed, to freeze the account of Pedro Obaseki. That is process, due process. Process is not even enough in law unless it is due.
It has to be due.
Yes, whatever is not expressly expressed by the law cannot be inferred by anybody. It will be ultra-vires and of no consequence whatsoever. So the CBN does not have the locus to do what it just did. It's a different thing if the CBN says, because of the fact that we found Bank Unity, Bank Infinity, Republic Bank of Nigeria, we find them culpable in funding the affairs of XY persons who are involved in activities against the state, treasonable activities that threaten the collegiate corporate existence of Nigeria as a state. We hereby ask for an ex parte, a motion ex parte, even if it doesn't mean to be ex parte.
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't even be. The ex parte means that the other party is not informed. Extraneous of that party who I'm suing, the party should be informed.
Obviously.
You get my point? We now get an injunction to stop that bank from operating because I have the locus to sanction that bank. You don't have the locus to the individuals.
Absolutely.
It's just reverse osmosis.
I want us to pay more attention, gentlemen, to the issue of security. And Patrick, this is one issue I wanted to speak to. The ENDSARS protests have now sparked more insecurity, security concerns across this country, not just in Lagos, Edo, or anywhere else, across the country essentially. Of course, up until now, we've seen Boko Haram, do a whole lot of damage up in the northeast. We've seen banditry and kidnapping, clashes between herdsmen and farmers all across other parts of the north. But now there's a whole new dimension, no thanks to the ENDSARS protests. Is the government showing capacity to run circles around these challenges?
Well, I would say, I don't think so. I don't think so. You see, we must not deceive ourselves. Yes, security is everybody's business. I do hear that on ITV, Independence Radio all the time.
You have to drag us into that.
Yes, they keep telling me every day when I'm driving in the car that security is their business. Yes, I agree. But again, there's a government. I keep saying that we saw what happened the other time, and I think that was it not the US now, the missionary issue of the man people that came down to rescue a missionary
in Nigeria Republic.
In Nigeria Republic.
Who was kidnapped from Nigeria.
Just take a look at that, and they did all of that, and they will return back, just a missionary. I am telling you the truth that the security apparatus here, it seemed not to be working. I remember I told you some time ago I was also almost a victim of the herdsmen when I was coming from Ibadan court. And somehow I think I was delayed and I wanted to get to Benin, and on that road, Legbeka, I decided to go through Legbeka Akure Road. I was intercepted. But before then, I got to the military checkpoint and they were talking to me, you are going? I said, yes. Won't you just wait, stay here with us, or maybe it's like those headers guys are in the bush. And they were sitting down. I mean, I'm talking to the soldiers, military, they are there.
They are advising him.
So they are advising me to stay back, and I said no. Because I've also gotten information that that would be risky, because most of the time, I'm not trying to indict anybody, that you don't know who is talking to you.
Right.
So I kept on. Really, I was intercepted now. They blocked the road with their cows and all whatnot. I horned them, they wouldn't listen, they wouldn't pull off the road. In Nigeria, and this is, I just passed the military checkpoint. They had to take my life in my hand. I drove straight to the man with the gun. He was holding his AK-47 to fire me. I said, before you kill me, let me send you to hell. So he jumped into the bush and his men started shooting from behind. It was then I knew I was cuffed. Then I turned the vehicle, damaged my vehicle, shot all the way, but I narrowly escaped by God's grace. Now, how long shall we continue? When I told that to a very senior elderly man, he said, my son, that was where they kidnapped me, that same point. How long shall we continue like this? We know where those spots and government is aware. So what are we doing? Oh, we keep talking about they're working on it, we're working on it. If we really want to check this, we have footages, we have intelligence units. If they don't know what to do, you could employ the services of other crime and ask them and have a pact signed with them. If America could come, they have not been here before, they could come, they could spot out a common missionary. Let me use common, because it's not a government functionary now, it's not Donald Trump.
No, a politically exposed individual.
You know, just a missionary who's been there doing his missionary work, which is so important to the country that could send
Apache helicopters
and send down to rescue. Why would that man not love his country?
Yes.
So these are the things we are talking about. Nigerians keep dying every other day. Now, I was coming now, I saw this traffic. I was on the road. Okay, they have blocked the road now. They are checking. Is that how to check?
As the Benin Lagos Expressway around the sea.
Yes.
The big question, almost 6 kilometers.
The big question is, what are we achieving with this? These are still the same old ways we have been. You know, I said, it's Napoleon Hill that said that to expect a different result from what you keep doing the same way, it's a level of insanity.
Okay, let's see how we can address this insanity and get our minds right. All right, yeah, Pedro. Again, look at the ENDSARS protest. Look at the insecurity issues. We're seeing meetings between the president and his service chiefs again and again. There have been back and forth, several interactions amongst the security outfits and so on and so forth. A lot of persons say, look, this is just shenanigans. This is just like they say, smile for the camera, that sort of thing. Are we dealing with the substance here, or we're just having a superficial approach to security matters?
Every security is local. Just like every politics, every security is local. I will just take a different approach. I have been singing this for years. Nigeria is the most badly skewed federal system on planet Earth. And one of that makes it tangential is its security infrastructure. When I say security, I'm not talking about external security. I'm talking about internal security, constabulary, and policing. Every federal system on earth does not practice a central policing, particularly when you have nations, ethnic nationalities federating. Now, in the United States of America, I will go very high and I'll come back low. Every county, every precinct, every city, every state has its own police setup. And it is very much is calibrated what each of them have oversight functions, which of them have, what are the exclusive interventions that they must participate in, what their roles are. If you go to the United Kingdom, where you have 4 countries, Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland, and England, you know, the Great Britain, is a United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. They have their police. The Scottish police does not come across the border just 7-10 kilometers away and come to Newcastle to come and arrest. Now in Ghana, the police in Accra cannot go to Tema or Takoradi, which is just 5-10 kilometers away. In Nigeria, the Commissioner of Police for Edo State does not understand one single word in any single indigenous language in Edo State. In Nigeria, you will take a man from Kaura Namuda to come and be Commissioner of Police in Delta State, and he doesn't even know how to pronounce it. Policing is local. Until that fundamental problem is solved, every other thing is just jabberwocky. To use your parlance, smiling for the cameras. The problem with the Nigerian security infrastructure is endemic, and it's at the very root of its security superstructure. It's a faulty superstructure. We must deregularize, decentralize, and localize the police. Let me give you where the biggest argument for police decentralization came. It started in Benin. In 1985-86, a band of robbers took over the Bendel space, that is Benin Delta, now the Edo and Delta State, led by Anini. It started a few years before with Prince Erika and all those people that were having problems over their supposed killing in the police cell. And Anini, Monday Osumbo, Ofegi, I still remember them vividly because I was in 400 level in the University of Benin then. And that showed that policing must be local. For months running, I still remember the day they shot Commissioner Kabusi in the nose at Ring Road. Now the police couldn't find his feet until Babangida made a nationwide broadcast. And that nationwide broadcast was directed at Parios Ayande. So they had to bring a Benin man, who was then the Deputy Inspector General of Police, to come to Benin. And in less than a few weeks, because Benin man say, I don't know what I can say it on television.
You tell us what it is in English.
You know, if the stranger knows where the ancestral specter of the tribe is, it is in the hand of the local.
Okay.
So if you bring a policeman to come to Lampese and he does not speak Akukwedu, or you bring a policeman to come to the backsides of Egwaholo, to the bush forests of Igworiahi, where he cannot navigate himself. Meanwhile, the locals know the bushes and the pathways like the very back of their palms. If you bring them to Giligili, to Ofunama, Nikorora, and you don't bring a local who can handle the boats like cradling a child, there, you are a joke. So continuously, like I wrote to the governor over the challenges that we are facing now. And the things are simple. The constabulary arrangement presently cannot handle the security challenges of Edo State. There must be an entrenchment and an enhancement of the vigilante sector, because it is their community. Maybe that is what ITV radio, independent radio, is telling us, that the security of ourselves is first in our hands.
Before anything else.
Before anything else. And I'm happy now that I've spoken with some of the young men who are involved in some of these things. Particularly, you have to understand that the Edo State own is elite. I said it before, it's different. Ours is political. Ours is socio-psychosomatic, as in terms of cultists. We have to understand. And then we had the singular dishonor of having released in one fell swoop on the 19th of October almost 2,000 convicted felons. What does that portend? The man has no means of livelihood, and survival is a human impetus.
Absolutely.
So what the man does, he's ready to go in broad daylight. He has nothing to lose. The only person that has things to lose is you, who still have your freedom. He's lost his. So he can do absolutely anything to get the next meal. So we have on the streets of Benin, within its environs and a larger state, 2,000. So for a 5 million, 4 million people, there is an armed robber for every 100.
Okay, much as that sounds scary, Patrick, when the Amotekun framework was introduced, and then of course governors in the Southwest talked about, rolled out plans as to how they were going to deploy these gentlemen, in which case we're seeing them being deployed already in states like Oyo, 1,500 we're hearing as of this morning, for example. Was that announcement some relief for someone like you when you realize that governors in the southwest of Nigeria were rallying support around themselves to say, look, let's redefine how we do security? Because he just said extensively that security is first local before anything else. So does Amotekun answer the question of local security?
To a large extent, it does. If you follow it through, it's not to get started. You know, the challenge have always been politics. You know, at some point in time, the IG came on board and said they were going to create some structure for them and stuff like that. You know, meanwhile, HPA or whatever they have over there could go up there, destroy someone's drinking center, palace and stuff like that, damage it, and then you say, well, it's against you. Nobody created that for them. You know, these are some of the issues. So politics, religion, who is in power, who is doing it, why is it south-south, why is it west? You know, those are the factors that could militate against it. If not, they will be able to spot. You could see those guys going into the bush, you know, to fish out the herdsmen, and it was then the Fulanis, you know, now said, well, it's like they are trying to attack them or stuff like that. We are not fighting the Fulanis, they are part of us, but we are against criminals. They are Fulani criminals, they are Benin criminals, they are Hausa criminals, they are Igbo criminals. So when they perpetrate crime, we should remove that from the tribe. So there is not an Igbo criminal. A criminal is a criminal. And when you are being prosecuted in court, they don't say, oh, this is Benin criminal, or that you are a criminal. Okay, no, we won't say a criminal now because you have not been convicted. They won't say because you are a Benin man, suspect. We suspected a Benin man, they won't call you. They say it's also one suspect. Yes. That's it. So we should play down religion, we should play down tribalism and work. Like, you know, you talked about the Amotekun, it's splendid. Shey Makinde is a wonderful man and he's doing so well. And I know he knows exactly what he's doing. And they can do this big job, so to speak. Like Dr. Pedro have said, you know, you need to look locally and see it, and that's the truth. Because if I have a street, I know everybody on my street. When I know those of questionable character, we know them. You know, those days you say, when you come in, they say, those people, please, that house is known for this.
Avoid them.
Avoid them. Yes, thank you.
You know, when you go on for a vacation, you want to start playing ball with some people, say, hey, my son, come. You don't play ball with them. You say, why? Say, that house, they are fond of raping young girls. The day police will come, you will be dragged along with them. So you stop playing ball. So that means Mama has already that information.
Intelligence.
She knows what. So if we have people, then you know there are some that are into stealing, picking up stuff, waiting for young women, men coming from their business places. At about 7, they stay somewhere as though they're in a drinking bar or something like that. And after they pull out their guns or toy guns to rob people. So it's been something that they've known them. But some persons are afraid because they know that if you talk, we'll come to your house. So if you have this in a local sense, it will make more money. And I think it's a welcome development. We should all
embrace it, okay, and be part of it, so all hands should be on deck. But we're wrapping up now. I just want to talk to Pedro quickly as we just draw the curtains on the discussion about the politics of security. I'll tell you something quickly. We understand that security, as we know it, is on the exclusive lists.
Yes.
All right. So the federal government, for example, has total control over the Nigeria police.
Yes.
All right. And so a governor in Nigeria will tell you, look, I don't have latitude about policing. So the commissioner of police in my state doesn't report to me, which is the position, I mean, by facts, as we know it. All right. But some persons have also pointed to the possibility of a conspiracy, some sort of blackmail. They are saying, on the average, for example, a governor in Nigeria receives about 500 million naira as security votes on a monthly basis.
Yeah, depending on the budget.
Exactly.
Of the state.
Some say on the average.
Yes.
We don't have a handle on those statistics, but they say the governors do receive millions, hundreds of millions every other month across the country for security issues in their respective states. So the federal government, on their part, expects that the state governments will be able to, as it were, nip insecurity in the bud, given the amount of money that they get every other month and so on and so forth. While the governors are saying, look, the police are not in my control. The commissioner of police doesn't even take my calls, for example, because he reports to the IG, who in turn reports to the president. How do we also address the politics and politicking involved in policing?
I am happy you used the preceding thing you said was the security is on the exclusive list. So which means it's actually a constitutional issue.
Of course.
But also it also means, because the exclusive list is an indexed appendix of the Constitution. But that same Constitution gives both the local and the federal houses of assembly the latitude to come up with policies and pronouncements and create structures that will ensure security of lives and property of the citizens within its milieu, whether it's at the federal level or at the state. So we had tried once upon a time, I'm the president of the Midwest Movement, and we had approached the governors of both states 2 years ago, late last year, set up a plenary, drew up a Midwest development agenda in line with the one that was also done in the West, which is everybody don't know how Motorcon did not just come from the blues. It came from DAWN, D-A-W-N, Developmental Agenda for Western Nigeria. We tried to replicate that and created the Midwest Shield. You see, a regional security will not work when there is no cross-border handshake between neighboring communities. Because if you stand in Ogara or you stand in Olobu, you are basically the same community. The same town, Alifikede, is called Ogan in Edo State. So there must be, and there is the palace of the king of Ogan. The backyard is in Alifikede. Why the market in Alifikede is, so you just say a signboard, welcome to Delta State. So when there is a handshake, the governors seem not to, I'm very sorry. I am the younger brother of the governor of my state. But I owe the Edo people and the Edo nation more than I owe any individual. There must be a willingness to engage. And it is that lack of willingness on the security level that is a problem. Luckily, the governor of Edo State has so much latitude. I will say it any day. Today, he is the governor of a state after a most crucial, almost existential electoral battle, where the people stand behind him. What is that young man's name again? Obaze calls him a maton. So he's like the general clad in iron. So he must now take over that social psychosomatic space so as to provide security. The security setup must not be allowed to remain at the behest of unknown, non-indigens. It will not work. And the Constitution of Nigeria, that is what the young people, that is what the governments of the Western states, of the Southwest, took advantage of. What we need is simple. A legislation by the Edo State House of Assembly to give the executive arm the right to protect our people It is enshrined in our constitution. It doesn't have to get into conflict with the police. It will enhance and help strengthen policing of localities, and when things get out of hand, you can now hand them over to CIB, SIB. You see, the police is so funny that you have cross layers, multi-layers, overlaying layers of policing within the same structure. You have FIB, you hear SIB, you hear SIB, you hear SPU. In Nigerian police, you hear SARS. Now it is SWAT. You know, so those over-convoluted problems is a greater security.
I'm afraid time is always a constraint when we talk about these things, because these are issues that are long drawn out.
Yes.
And obviously, it's a conversation we need to continue to have as we make progress on the front of security in this country. Thank you so much, Dr. Don Pedro Obaseki, for coming to join us this morning. And Dr. Patrick Awosege, we appreciate your time with us as well.
Thank you so much.
All right, we're taking a quick break now. We're back shortly to have a few more interviews here on the program this morning. I'm Uyag Mofwegbe. Do stay with us.